Hi everyone, Melissa here. I'm back with another video. In today's video, I have two awesome client success stories, and I'm going to talk about timing and why some things seem to manifest faster than others. So if that's something you've been wondering about, then I think this video will really help you. Okay, so when we think about our reality, I think something super important to remind yourself of regularly is that it's only ever now. Whether we are remembering something we believe that happened in our past, or imagining something we're worried about or excited about or thinking about that might happen in our future, we're still only ever perceiving everything in the now present moment. So when you start thinking about timing for your manifestations, bring yourself back to it's only ever now. If I desire it, I'm desiring it now. If I intend that it's true, I'm intending that it's true now. If I'm thinking about the past, I'm remembering a memory. I'm bringing that up in my now moment. I'm writing that into my now narrative. Basically, when you're remembering something, it's just retelling a story in every now moment. So when we think about revision in terms of timing, that's why revision is so powerful, because you're not changing the past because it's only ever now. You're changing your memory of the story of your perceived past. And since it's only ever now, it changes the minute you say it changes. So all this is to say that when we get focused on the timing of things showing up, it's because we're forgetting that it's only ever always now. It's only ever always the present moment. And we get distracted by things happening around us and in front of us, and we put pressure on ourselves because even though it's only ever now, we use the measure of time to help us make sense of what's going on around us, to help us put our reality into a context that we can understand. We compartmentalize things, we put things in buckets. We have a human perception of a natural progression of the way things work and how long things seem to take, and that there's years and months and days, and that we get older every year, and etc. So there's a lot about our 3D reality that's centered around time for the purpose of our own understanding of it, and just being able to survive in a 3D experience in this reality. We need time to be able to function in it, right? So when you're thinking about your manifestations, try to remember that it's not logical. It's spiritual, if you want to call it that. It's from your higher self. It's from your subconscious mind. It's from the universe, whatever you want to call it, the God within you. So time is irrelevant in terms of manifesting. So getting back to why some things seem to take longer than others. When we notice that something manifests quickly, and when I say manifest, I just mean it becomes visible in your physical reality experience, because it's always ever existing. You just can't always see everything at the same time, because one, that would be super confusing. We wouldn't be able to process it if we could literally see every single thing that exists all at once, everything all at once. But it's always existing, but it's not, everything's not always visible to us. And the way it becomes visible is we bring it into our awareness. We become conscious of its existence. We become conscious of we take on the identity of the person who has this thing now, who is this thing now. However you can finish the sentence: I am, it is, he is, she is, they are, we are. That's how you're identifying in that now moment as it relates to that thing, person, place. Okay, so because it always exists now, you never have to worry about the time it takes to manifest. It's always manifested. It's just you can't see it all the time. So a good way to look at time and when things show up is, I really want this thing to manifest. I'm intending for it. I've desired it. I've decreed it. I've declared it. I've affirmed for it, whatever technique you choose to do, but you're telling yourself that this thing is now true in your reality, and you notice that you don't see it out here. You still have to remind yourself, just because I can't see it doesn't mean it's not true. It's always true because it always exists. I'm just not experiencing it yet. It's not visible to me. It's not been made manifest in front of my eyes yet. That doesn't mean it's not true. So when you're getting tripped up on time, 1, try to remind yourself it's only ever always now. 2, remember everything you want always exists, because if you can think of it, it's in your consciousness, it's in your awareness, therefore it can be manifested into the screen in front of your eyeballs, into physical reality. And also, just because I can't see it right now, it doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean that there's no movement. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, that it's not manifested. Okay. So now that I've given that little explanation, let's talk about a couple client success stories. This happened to be the same client, actually, where a couple things manifested super quick, and then there's something else she's still waiting on. Okay. So this client, super awesome. So thank you so much for letting me share your story. You know who you are. So we have been chatting, I would say maybe a couple weeks now. And she's been focused on one, I'm just going to call it a big goal. One big thing she's been really trying to manifest. And she's got a lot of worry and heightened emotion about this desire because, 1, it's super important to her. She sees it as a very big deal. And time has been a big factor in it. If it doesn't happen this way, it can never happen. If it doesn't happen in this amount of time, it's not happening. It's not possible. So we've really been breaking down those stories. But in the meantime, I suggested in our last session to also start intending, desiring, manifesting some other things. 1, because it's fun. And we're always constantly manifesting tons of things all the time, multiple things, multiple desires at once anyways. But 2, so that you can be reminded of your power when these things show up, and how simple it truly is to make visible the invisible. And also, just because she was so focused on this big goal that she had, this big thing she was trying to manifest, that it was consuming her, but not in the right ways. You know, she was very focused on, it's not here yet. Why haven't I seen it yet? I'm doing this. I'm stressing out. It needs to happen by this certain date, or it's going to be the end of the world, right? Okay. So I gave her the homework of thinking of a few things to manifest as along with it. Okay. And the 2 things were receiving some money and getting contact with someone she hadn't talked to. I want to say it was like a month and a half or 2 months. This happened to be a specific person that she was romantically interested in. They were not talking. Okay. And I don't think there was maybe a big falling out, but it wasn't the relationship that she wanted. You know, she wanted to be in contact, dating this person, having fun, having them in her life all the time. Okay. So those were the 2 things that she decided to work on from when we talked in our last call, which I think these calls were like a week apart. Okay. So she started shifting her focus away from her big desire, not to say she didn't want it anymore, but she stopped hyper focusing on it. And she started shifting to, okay, I'm going to think about the idea that money could come to me, that money comes to me all the time, that I'm surprised with money often. And people love giving me money, and I'm a money magnet, and money is obsessed with me, and money, you know, loves to show up for me. Money loves when I spend it. Money loves when I save it. Money just loves me. Okay. So she started just playing around with thoughts like that. And I think the main one was just that she intended that she's receiving money regularly, frequently. And she's always happily surprised by money that shows up regularly. Okay. So one thing that happened as a result of that affirmation was she ended up receiving a security deposit from a previous apartment or a house that she lived in. And she didn't think she was going to get any of the money back, and she actually got it all back. So that was a really happy surprise that came at a time she wasn't expecting it. And then she started also thinking about talking to this specific person again. So when you're thinking about manifesting a person. It's the same idea. And the formula is the same for anything, right? You figure out that it's a desire. You decide that you want something, and you bring it into your awareness, and you start assuming that it's true and possible for you now, because it's only ever now. But you start telling yourself, this is possible, this is true for me, this is happening now. Okay. So she started thinking about this person only a few times. She didn't really dwell on it, but she started thinking about this person, thinking that she'd really like to talk to them, thinking that they would really like to talk to her, and just imagining that they were happy going on a date. This person wants to hang out with me and they want to talk to me. She told me she really didn't focus on it too much. She maybe said it twice and then just forgot about it. Now, that's an important detail, because a lot of times you'll hear success stories where people will say, oh, I only thought about it once and then I forgot about it and it showed up right away. So we'll get into that piece in a minute. But so she thought about this person. She had those couple affirmations, and then she went on about her day. Less than 24 hours later, this person sent her a text message literally saying, hey, I miss you. Let's go out on a date. And this is after no contact. She did not reach out in her physical reality. She did not reach out in 3D. She just had the thought, this person misses me and wants to hang out with me. Didn't have any thoughts contradicting it. Didn't argue with herself for why it wasn't possible or couldn't happen or that it was going to take too long. She wasn't constantly checking out here. Where is it? I haven't seen a text. I said they were going to text me and I haven't heard from them. Where are they? They're not reaching out to me. It must not be true. None of that. She just decided it, went on about her day, showed up in less than 24 hours. Better than she expected. She was just thinking, oh, they'll probably say hi, that would be nice. But they were like super excited to talk to her and actually asked her out on a date. So that was a super fun, almost instant manifestation. It was less than 24 hours. Now, when we were talking about this on our last coaching call a few days ago, we were also talking about the money thing, and she had a family member who was contacting her a lot, but the conversations were stressful because they were talking to her about her big manifestation that she's still working on. So in the 3D, it's not visible yet. So she's been kind of juggling, managing, out here and how people are showing up out here as it relates to that desire versus what's going on in here about it. Okay. So she was anxious every time she saw this person reaching out to her, because she thought, oh, they're going to get on my case about this thing. They're going to ask me about this thing. I don't want to talk about it. I don't know what to say because it's not true yet. It hasn't manifested yet. I'm still waiting for it, etc. So I reminded her, don't make it mean that, because you're just perpetuating the narrative you don't want. You're keeping your unwanted story alive by decreeing that what you don't want is true. And that's why this person is reaching out to you. That's the story you don't want. That's you're making visible. You're continuing to make visible the story you don't want instead of the story that you do want. So she started shifting her focus. And on that call, we were just talking about how this family member was calling and she was getting stressed about it. And I said, no, you got to change your story. They only have good things to say. They're not even going to talk to me about that. They have something else they want to talk about, etc. So while we're on the call, that person ended up calling her and she didn't answer. But about 2 minutes later, she got an alert on her phone from her bank, and that person sent her money while we were on the call. So it was a super fun manifestation because she literally changed her story about why that person was reaching out while we were talking, along with her money affirmation that she just started saying that week about how people are giving her money. Money's constantly showing up. She's happily surprised with money. And then this person put money in her bank account. So all this to say, when something's showing up in your 3D, what's your instant perception of it? What's your instant thought about it? That tells you a lot about what story is alive within your awareness. And if it doesn't match what you want, if it's something you don't prefer, that's where you need to shift it. That's also known as resistance, blocks, whatever. You're deeming it an obstacle or in the way of or opposite or contrary of what you want, contrary of your desire, contrary of your manifestation that you prefer. Okay. So that's where you need to catch yourself. And it changes instantly. The second you change your story about whatever it is you're perceiving, it changes instantly. You just can't always see it with your eyes instantly. So don't get that mistaken with it's not true. Just know the second you decide something, it's always true. You're always right. You're always right. Reality is always going to prove you right via your assumptions, via your beliefs. So that's why revision, and that's why your beliefs are the ultimate power, because when you change your perspective, your reality instantly has to mirror that back to you in any way possible, in the fastest way possible. And if you don't see the visible change, don't get confused and make that mean that it's not true yet. Just remind yourself, it's only ever now. So what I say goes is instant always. And if I can't see it yet, it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means it's not visible in front of my eyes yet. That's it. That's it. It just means I'm not seeing anything that I'm perceiving as evidence of its truth. I'm not seeing anything that I'm perceiving as proof of its truth, but it's still true. Just because you're not looking out the window doesn't mean the sky isn't blue. If you believe it's blue and you know it's blue, it's blue whether you're looking at it or not. That's how you got to perceive all of your desires, because your reality is only projecting your consciousness always. It's only projecting your awareness always. So if you are aware of truths that you don't prefer, you're going to get that shown back to you until you change what you're assuming is true, until you change those stories. So going back to when she mentioned, I just thought about this one thing and then I dropped it and I didn't even think about it. That is such a powerful statement, because it's not that she stopped wanting what she wanted. It's not that she let go or detached from the desire. It's that she was not attached to any reasons why it wasn't happening, not possible, couldn't be true for her. So detachment is really just not being attached to a contrary story, not owning an identity that's opposite of what you want. So what that would look like in her case is, money's really hard to get. I never get money. I hardly ever receive money. I don't have a lot of money. And this person doesn't want to talk to me. If they wanted to, they would. If they wanted to reach out, they would. It's been this long. They don't want anything to do with me. They're probably talking to somebody else. They've probably forgotten about me. I'm not important, right? That's what that identity would look like. But she didn't have any of that going on. So the second she decreed something about both of those things, showed up super fast. So this really became a video about resistance too. But that's actually been a question that's been coming up a lot. So I'm happy to cover it. So really, I just really wanted to share these two stories because, one, it shows you how fast you can get communication. It can happen like same day because it's only ever now anyways, but it can become visible so quickly. The second you change your mind about something, the second you decree something, the second you decide something, just hold on to that decision. Just don't let anything out here sway that decision. Once you say so, that's it, period. Out here is just shifting, conforming, changing constantly to show you that decision back to you. So don't let a circumstance bully you. Don't let a circumstance take that power away from you, because it's yours to give and it's yours to keep. The power of your assumption, the power of your perspective, your perception is yours. And if you choose to give it away to a circumstance and decide that something is permanent and that there's no way it can ever be a certain way, there's nobody else making that choice for you. There's nobody else saying you're right. You're saying to yourself, you're right. If you really want to know more about the science behind this, or there's so many books on quantum physics, but one in particular that I really like that talks a lot about the subconscious mind is Joseph Murphy, Power of the Subconscious Mind. Okay, excellent book. Will really help. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a nice introduction to how reality works, how consciousness works, how our mind works. But basically, whatever you say is true, you're always right. Whether or not you see the evidence immediately of that, from your perspective, if something is a certain way, that's the lens at which you're going to see your whole reality. That's the lens at which you're going to perceive people in your reality. So whatever labels you are giving things and people, are going to have to show those labels back to you in their behavior and their actions and their words. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to how you're describing things, especially if you're just describing something, or you're experiencing, you're seeing patterns in your reality, you're experiencing something you don't like, pay attention to how you're describing that thing, that circumstance, that person, because the label, whatever the label is that you've placed on there, that's the truth you are decreeing in every now moment. And that's just going to keep showing up for you until you change that story, until you give it a different label, right? And then just one more thing I wanted to touch on as it relates to time. You know, another way to look at it, which is how Neville Goddard talks about it, is the time it takes for your assumption to harden into fact, or for your manifestation to become visible in your reality, is directly related to how fast you can convince yourself of its truth, how fast you can embody the naturalness of it being so. So think, if that helps you to put time into a different perspective, think about it that way too. You know, there's only limits if you say there's limits. Something's only going to take a long time if you assume so. Something is only impossible to you if you assume so. Something is only hard if you assume so. So stop putting obstacles in your way when there don't need to be any. You know, you have the power to let this be easy. It's always been easy, and it's always worked the same way. I mean, you just didn't know that that's how it worked before, right? So moving forward, now you know better, so do better. Do better with your assumptions. Do better with the stories you're telling yourself. Do better with the truths you are embodying, the truths you are owning. Change them up if you don't like what's happening in your reality. Change up those stories. You know, it's very subjective. It's very subjective, and you have the power of your perception in every now moment. I think that's all I really wanted to talk about in this video. I'm just super excited to share an example of someone getting super quick communication without taking any action in the 3D, and perception of a person changed super quick, and also just some fun money manifestations, because who doesn't love those? So if you saw my previous video and are doing my unicorn challenge, I would love to hear updates. So please put those in the comments. Anything that has manifested as a result of you embodying that story. And again, if you are focused on timing, worried about timing, remind yourself, one, it's only ever now. It's only ever the present moment. Two, so nothing can ever be late, right? If it's the present moment, if it's only ever now. Two, there's no entity outside of you that's deciding whether or not you can have it, when you can have it, if you can have it, how you can have it. It's just you. It's all you. So if you want to believe in giving your power away to timing being out of your control, then that's your prerogative. But it would probably be much more fun to allow things to just always manifest instantly. I decide they're true instantly, which means they manifest instantly, which means they become visible instantly, as fast as they can possibly be. You know, start playing around with that. Start deciding things always show up quickly when you decree them. Start deciding things become visible quickly. You can always see, no matter what, when you say it's true, it's true. And lastly, just remind yourself, just because I can't see it in front of my face doesn't mean it's true. Just because I can't see it with my eyes in this now moment does not mean that it's not working. I'm not good at this. It's hard. It's going to take a long time. It didn't manifest. It doesn't mean it's not true. Don't put that meaning. Don't give what you are perceiving as no movement the meaning of no movement, because that's the only reason you keep perceiving it that way, right? When you label it as no movement, that's all you're going to see it as. When you label it as not working, or taking a long time, or not here yet, or that you're waiting, guess what? You're always right. That's the truth you're embodying. So you're going to keep experiencing waiting, not true yet, being hard. Okay. All right. I think that's it for this one. I intend you have an amazing week, and I'll see you in the next one.